Hey, welcome to Advanced Math, Unit 12, Part B, Page 1. This is the unit on vectors, and Part B is talking about adding vectors, subtracting vectors, doing very simple arithmetic with vectors. Now, we mentioned at the beginning that a vector is a mathematical concept that ties together the idea of direction and magnitude, just like Vector Perkins, direction and magnitude. And one of the things we can do to represent that in mathematics is use arrows. So I've got on this page an example of an arrow that represents a vector. It's a model of a vector because this arrow has a direction and it has a magnitude which is represented by the arrow's length. So a longer arrow means a greater magnitude, a shorter arrow means a smaller magnitude, and direction is just direction. Now, if we are dealing with a bunch of different vectors, we want to distinguish between them, we give them names. So this vector here is named u. And when you're writing about vectors, there's some conventions that we can talk about. So in the classwork, when you see a vector referred to with a variable name like u, we use a bold typeface for that. Alternatively, we might use an italic letter with a little arrow on top of it, and the arrow signifies that this variable is referring to a vector quantity. In handwriting, since you can't use bold face in handwriting, we just use the letter with the arrow overhead. One other thing you can do with a vector, or we can talk about doing, is just referring to the length of the vector, or the magnitude alone. And when you do that, you use the same symbols that you would use to get an absolute value of something. So you could say these two bars are giving you the absolute value of the vector, but more properly, you're getting the magnitude or the length of the vector when you do that. And lastly, the direction of the vector can be described in a variety of ways. It's very simply, you could say it's up or to the right, west, or since this is an outgrowth of trigonometry, you could use angles to describe the direction of a vector. And there's another way that we're going to talk about shortly. On the next page, we'll start working on simple things like addition and negative vectors and multiplying by numbers.